Let's go. In and out. 20 minutes adventure.
Let's face it, Rick and Morty is basically an Easter egg factory. Every episode has Rick Sanchez flying through parody versions of everything from The Purge to A Nightmare on Elm Street. And as obvious as many of the references are, there are still some obscure Easter eggs that Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon tried to sneak by us.
I believe Birdperson can arrange that.
One of the all-time favorite Rick and Morty episodes is Total Recall. This is the one where the Smith family has their house invaded by parasites that infect their memories and also parody the sitcom trope of new characters getting introduced who were supposedly there all along. The episode begins with Rick blaming someone for bringing in a space parasite, but it was actually his fault the whole time. See, in the episode Morty Night Run, Rick loads alien rocks onto his ship while making fun of Morty. And if you look closely, you can see a little pink blob that would go on to become the memory-infecting parasites. Rick and Morty loves to reference obscure or forgotten sci-fi properties. One of the biggest references is Rick's famous best friend, Birdperson. While most people probably think that he's just based on Birdman, which is somewhat accurate, he's actually based on the character Hawk from Buck Rogers in the 25th century. In that series, Hawk was the last of his race who went from an enemy of Buck Rogers to his partner. So Birdperson is really Hawk and Birdman thrown into a blender. Well, now that he's Phoenix Person, might as well throw Darth Vader into that blender too. I'm sure it'll blend. The instant classic Gravity Falls features a secret organization called the Blind Eye Society. This secret cabal has been referenced several times in Rick and Morty. Fans who apparently have the eyes of an eagle, or possibly Birdperson, have spotted blink and you'll miss it symbols and references to the Blind Eye Society in Gravity Falls itself. Many fans are sure that the two exist in the same universe.
Honestly, that was perfect.
Roiland and Harmon don't really like to dive too deeply into Rick's backstory. One of the few big details we've gotten is that Rick, Birdperson, and Squanchy were all part of a band called the Flesh Curtains. While this is a cool detail for most fans, for some fans, it is a big deal. The internet is full of fan art, stories, and even full songs depicting what Rick's band was probably like. The only space-traveling adult animated series that could ever really compete with Rick and Morty is the one and only Futurama. That series revolves around an intergalactic delivery service called Planet Express that gets wrapped up in all sorts of sci-fi adventures. The spaceship Fry, Leela, and the rest of the gang fly around and has been spotted multiple times in the background of Rick and Morty. It's only natural that the biggest sci-fi animated series of this generation pays tribute to the last one. While the series has definitely messed with time over the years, it has never done time travel itself. That's because Roiland and Harmon are very against the overused mechanic. If their interviews weren't clear enough, there's a box labeled time travel stuff on one of Rick's shelves. This is literally them shelving time travel forever. Well played. It's a toss-up whether Dan Harmon will be remembered more for Rick and Morty or the NBC series that launched him into stardom, Community. While Rick and Morty has had its share of production problems, it has nothing on Community. The show was nearly canceled every season. Dan Harmon was fired after the incredible season 3, and he was rehired after the horrible season 4, and it was finally canceled after season 5. Oh, and season 6 was dropped on, of all things, Yahoo! The show parodied this by having Unity perform what looked like Community for Rick's perverse amusement, as he mirrored the executives who were constantly messing with it.
Now make him cry, but happy cry. Now make them all make fun of the blonde one.
Not only that, but a ton of the cast members have voiced characters on the show. Strangely enough, Rick and Morty didn't start off with Rick and Morty. See, it was the original short The Real Adventures of Doc and Mharty by Justin Roiland that was the precursor to the animated series we know and love.
Oh my God, Mharty, you're disappearing!
Oh God, Doc, why? What's going on?
It's an incredibly mature spoof of the friendship between Marty McFly and Doc Brown from Back to the Future. And it's not nearly as clever as Rick and Morty, but you can see why Roiland wanted to come back and do more. You can also see how their voices evolved from parodies of Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd to something iconic all their own.
Okay.
Well, it's good you're here, Rick.
I'm pretty sure Dan Harmon watched every single sci-fi B-movie he could in the 1990s, which would be the only way to explain his obsession with the film Lawnmower Man. In that quote-unquote classic movie, a scientist played by Pierce Brosnan develops a procedure with virtual reality and special chemicals to give a man genius intellect. Not only was this movie's virtual reality spoofed in the last season of Community, but the second episode of Rick and Morty spoofs it as well by having Morty's dog Snuffles gain a genius intellect. Funnily enough, the episode features a world run by genius dogs, which was actually another series Roiland tried to get made but got rejected. I suppose those uncultured louts had not yet beholden the majesty of the cinematic gem that is Lawnmower Man. It's honestly surprising that the Smith family home is still standing. There have been several alien takeovers and epic sci-fi shenanigans that should have wiped the whole house out, though somehow it's still there. As durable as it is, if you look closely enough, you'll see the damage that the house has taken over the series has left scars. When Summer bursts through the house as a giant, it takes a little while for the roof to get repaired. Oh, I feel so sorry for the realtor who will inevitably have to sell it and explain the sci-fi basement laboratory. Although, maybe you could upsell it as a feature for a mad scientist? I don't know. Look, y'all, real estate's hard. Okay, so if you knew like literally nothing about Rick and Morty, you could probably watch the opening credits and guess what the show is. The theme and animation is clearly inspired by other sci-fi classics like Doctor Who and Farscape. Not only that, but the opening credits are full of sci-fi references that either appear in the series or ones that we'll just never see. The most notable one is the giant monster that chases them at the end of every sequence. Unsurprisingly, it looks just like the legendary monster Cthulhu from the stories of H.P. Lovecraft. I think it's safe to say we've all been waiting for that Cthulhu episode ever since we saw it for the first time, but I'll be honest, I don't think they're gonna do it, guys. The episode that solidified that Rick and Morty wasn't just a show that started with a few strong episodes, but a brilliant series overall, was M. Night Shyamalan's. This episode had Rick inside of a simulation on an alien ship. He saw through the ruse and managed to gross out the aliens while he was at it. He and Morty stripped in order to distract the aliens, who found their unclothed bodies absolutely disgusting. The funny thing about that is, the head alien was played by David Cross. Cross's most famous character to date is Dr. Tobias Fumke from Arrested Development, who is pathologically afraid of removing all his clothes. Man, even their jokes in that episode were jokes within a joke within a joke. One of the many obscure films that Rick and Morty has taken inspiration from is the 1988 film Midnight Run. It's about an accountant who is hunted by a bounty hunter, and this obviously served as the inspiration for the previously mentioned Morty Night Run, and the gas creature Morty helped stay away from the bounty hunters and police. This Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin classic is certainly better than some of the movies that have inspired them. I'm looking at you, Zardoz. Most of the Rick and Morty jokes are pretty easy to get even if you haven't seen the movie or TV show it's referencing. One that still doesn't make sense are the strange-looking time cops. And while you could just accept that they're supposed to look alien even by alien standards, they're better when you know what they're based on. Stephen King has a story called The Langoliers that features ridiculous monsters that look just like the time cops. Funnily enough, their species is literally called the Langoliers. Clearly, Harmon and Roiland are big Stephen King fans. Alright, we've met a ton of Ricks so far, but very few of them are actually nice guys. For the most part, they share our Rick's cruelty and insatiable ego. And then there's Doofus Rick, who is possibly the nicest character in the entire series.
Jeez, you're easy to impress.
He struck up an unlikely friendship with Jerry that got them both mocked. Apparently, Jerry still has fond memories of Doofus Rick because he keeps a portrait of him. While that's really sweet, that's also really creepy. I mean, who keeps a portrait of a random person they met one time? Clearly, Jerry does. The next season has already shown us Voltron, the Submariner, and giant evil turkeys, so chances are there will be enough in one season for a whole new video. Guess I'll be seeing y'all at the end of the season. And remember, wubba lubba dub dub!